Thank you, Studio B. Hello and welcome to Stock Review with me, Trishna Patel. I have JC here from IWSAchart.com, and on this edition, JC and I will be looking at several stocks that we looked in corporate profile this past week. And JC, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks a lot, Truss. It's always great to be the new year 2015.
Now, before we kick things off, JC, any positives on the Bursa this past week?
Now, let's look at the Bursa stocks that we have here. Now, last week on the insert that you see, we actually have a very bad, long black bar, as you can see in there, that looked very, very pessimistic. But again, we do have the support down there around 1710. Very importantly, we cannot break below the 1670, which is seen on the weekly chart, the long doji tail one. That is the eminent. Why do I say that? Is if the market were to break through this 1670, below the what we call the topping tail, then we will see this market, the KLSE market, would be submerged below the 1700 price level for the next 6 months. However, market has done pretty well to rescue the last few points and remain strong, especially the mid cap and the small cap stock, and that's what we are seeing, what we call a ascending triangle. Now, very likely, if this break above the 1740, we might see what we call a Chinese New Year rally. Be ready for that.
Now that's great news. Now let's look at this week's stock lineup. Starting off with PERISAI Petroleuem Berhad. PERISAI Petroleuem is currently sitting on 2 idle assets with no contracts in sight. RHB Research said in a note that it remains cautious on the prospects of these assets obtaining new contracts. While RHB Research maintains its sell call on PERISAI Petroleuem, it has reduced its target price from 88 cents to 35 cents only. It thinks that PERISAI faces an uphill battle as the assets in question are old and of lower specifications. Moreover, Bloomberg has reported that contracts for PERISAI's 10 jack-up rigs are expiring this year. Now, JC, does this spell trouble for PERISAI, and more importantly, what does this mean for existing shareholders?
Now, let's start a bit back on the left side of the chart. Now, remember, back in August when the crude oil prices were high, this stock was doing around 1 ringgit 50. We all know what happened, right? The stock price for, all stock for the oil and gas started to slide as we see crude oil prices also slide from $85–80 right down to where we are around 45 US dollar. That is more than 50% down. So it's not surprised that you see PERISAI Petroleum also doing the same thing. But having said that, there is a bit of good news in here, and since mid-December, this PERISAI Petroleum has been hovering sideways, and there is some sign of accumulation in there, but it is not time to accumulate yet.
Now, can we see how PERISAI has been doing this past year?
Now, if you look at the last 6 months on a weekly chart, since we want to look at the past year, it's very important to see where we are. Again, downtrend also correlate with the oil and gas play, which is correlated back to the crude oil. No doubt what's happening in here, around 40 to 50 cents, this stock would hover. But what is really good about this, the return on equity is staying at double digit at 10%, but what is hurting the PERISAI Petroleum shareholder is no payment of dividend as far as I can see. So if you are holding this stock, you'll be probably wondering, the stock price has fallen a great deal, around 40 cents, and the company not being paid, or the shareholder not being paid any dividend for holding this stock. RHB Research thinks that 2015 is poised to be yet another busy year for the construction sector. The research firm picked out PINTARAS JAYA Berhad as one of its top picks for the sector. It said in a note that PINTARAS JAYA is the best proxy to the piling segment. Prospects are strong for this segment as it is backed by the KV MRT project and the increase in demand for extension piling. Moreover, there is a chronic shortage in piling capacity in the market, which should boost piling rates. Now, all of these factors bodes very well for companies like PINTARAS JAYA. JC, what advice would you give to sideline investors? Now, if you're looking from an IWSA chart for PINTARAS JAYA, economic-wise, a lot of future news are already priced in on the price and volume chart. Now, having said that, a lot of projects in terms of ETP as well as construction will benefit PINTARAS JAYA, but we all know what's happening in there with a shortfall of not meeting even the GDP growth for 2015. The government may cut back some projects. Now, all these are still pretty much forecasted or under speculation, and any of this become so-called confirmed, then you'll see further sliding of a lot of construction sites like PINTARAS JAYA. So having said that, that's what we don't see much of upside, going back to around 460 or 470 ringgit for PINTARAS, but perhaps still trading below the 50-day moving average, which is still at 4 ringgit 10 cents in here.
Now, JC, can we have a look at your price and volume chart for PINTARAS?
Now, okay, good. Now, on the weekly basis, PINTARAS JAYA looks pretty healthy. It did go as low to 3 ringgit and 20 cents in here. Again, there was a spring. Can you see the green arrow key? Green arrow noted by SP. That's a spring. That means a lot of selling was pressed down all the way to 3 ringgit 10 cents. But guess what? The buyers came in and started to push the price back because it was oversold. And since then, it's been hovering above 3 ringgit 70 cents in here. But that is a good sign because PINTARAS does pay a very nice dividend compared to the previous stock we talk about. And this one has a nice ROE around 18 to 19% and a 3 to 4% dividend yield. That's not bad because if a lot of projects are going ahead and they're furthermore dealing with the ETP, you might see more upside for PINTARAS JAYA.
Now, looking at RHB Research, other topic in the construction sector, NAIM Holdings Berhad. NAIM stands to benefit from the Pan-Borneo Highway project worth 27 billion ringgit. The project is to construct the 1,663-kilometer highway with completion in 10 to 15 years. RHB Research thinks that work packages will be subcontracted to players like NAIM Holdings, Cahaya Mata Sarawak and Hock Seng Lee. Now, JC, what can you tell us about NAIM Holdings through your price and volume chart?
Now, like it or not, NAIM Holding is one of the play on the so-called construction, building, infrastructure in East Malaysia. Okay, we all know NAIM is involved in the Pan-Borneo Highway, which is really being built. Again, same issue that we have for PINTARAS JAYA, whether this is viable considering the current government are able to afford it, although a lot been said because this is still dependent on contribution of revenue from Petronas due to the crude oil prices. And it is, we can see NAIM is still moving sideways, a lot of accumulation in here, but with the dividend 1%, I do think this will have some sort of support at 2 ringgit 90 cents, and smart money does look like to be accumulating it.
Now, what are the key points would you say that investors should be looking at?
Now, key point is NAIM, like it or not, it is still a major play on the ETP and also the so-called East Malaysia infrastructure. It's not going to go away any sooner. At this point, it does seem like a good time to really accumulate it. But again, you will be moving sideways most of the time, meaning you have to expect this not much of a upside, perhaps until at least it breaks 3 ringgit 30 cents. So if you're not looking for a fast moving, perhaps a longer play, NAIM Holding may be a good thing.
Now let's look at a company in the renewable energy sector, CYPARK Resources Berhad. CMB Research expects CYPARK to secure more renewable energy projects this year. This comes on the back of the Malaysian government plan. The government is aiming to increase contribution from renewable energy sources to more than 10% of total generation capacity by 2020. Now this implies that there will be more projects in the horizon for CYPARK. JC, what does your price and volume chart have to say about CYPARK Resources?
Now, CYPARK from the IVSA chart has taken a really bad hit since we have the sell-off of the small and mid-cap stock, and that also included CYPARK around sometime November. And this market has really fallen off from 2 ringgit 50 cents in here all the way to 1 ringgit 80. And guess what? We have not even seen the low of CYPARK yet. There is still a potential this CYPARK going a bit lower, but probably that will be happening maybe little because we're seeing a lot of volume coming in there, and likely this market will likely to move more sideways. Now remember, in volume spread analysis, whenever time you see volume that we see on the right side of the chart of sideways part, this indicates selling has stopped and probably we are biased for a sideways market.
Now JC, what should silent investors be looking at in in regards to stocks in the renewable energy sector?
Now, renewable energy sector is relatively new in Malaysia, so a lot has been said, but whether this will be materialized to, at the end of the day, profit, and that will contribute to the earnings to the company. Like it or not, CYPARK has really taken a bad hit in there, so shareholders or even investor has not much of a confidence as it is now. However, giving the point that the dividend yield is doing around 2 to 2.5%, there may be in the long term a nice way to hold this for the dividend gain, and perhaps because this stock has really fallen a lot to 180, but caution, investor and IBSA trader, wait for sign of strength to come in first, where we'll see supply overcoming, we'll see demand overcoming supply before really accumulating CYPARK resources.
Now moving on to hot stocks. Last week you picked out KAREX Berhad. What else can you tell us on this?
Now, like it or not, in last week KAREX, it was a bit of an upside move. We have a wide range bar in here, breaking to 355. Immediately the following day, we also have a continuation going higher to $3.60. Now, like it or not, any major move or major gain, retailer or profit taking will come in, and we did see a bit of profit taking the last 2-3 days. Market came off and are still resting at 350, so that may be a nice pullback for some of you who like to get in back to KAREX. And remember, KAREX will benefit from the weakening ringgit, and KAREX has been one of condom manufacturer and one of the biggest supplier of condom in the world.
Now JC, what hot stock do you have for us this week?
Yes, we have YTL Corporation. Now, like it or not, YTL, you can see in here, we have a lot of strength in the background around 1 ringgit 56 and 1 ringgit 58. You can see denoted by the green arrow key. We have spring, we have test. And then finally, market took off, breaking above the 50-day moving average at 182 and subsequently trying to retest the old high 174. It'll be great next week to come back and review this stock. As such, we are inviting audience who is listening now to join us on our Facebook group for IBSA chart, merely called Price and Volume in KLSE. Come in, join us for a lively market discussion, stock market trading and business article at facebook.com at group Price and Volume in KLSE. Thank you.
Thanks JC. I'm afraid that's all for this edition. On behalf of JC and myself, Trishna Patel, have a good trading week. Back to you, Studio B.